Hi, welcome back. Today we're talking about something kind of different. Different for a few reasons. First of all, this film is not from 1971, but 1970. I had not heard of it before, hadn't seen it on any kind of list or anything like that, but very recently a documentary came out called Woodlands Dark and Days Bewitched. That came out, Severin Films put that out in a giant box set with a whole bunch of folk horror films. And so this is one of the folk horror films, and I hadn't heard of it before. I went back to my master list, and it says that this is a thriller historical drama, so I guess that's why I missed it. And I can see why it would be labeled that. It's not exactly what you would consider a horror film, but it also kind of is. The other thing that makes this different is that this is the first Czech movie that we'll have ever discussed. This was made back when Czechia was part of the Czechoslovakia, but this film is made in, and set in the Czech part of Czechoslovakia. So for all intents and purposes, it's a Czech film, not a Czechoslovakian film. But anyway, the film is based on true events and probably was made at least partially in the wake of the popularity of Witchfinder General. We talked about Witchfinder General before because it influenced a few other witch-finding or witch-hunting films, such as The Throne of Fire, also known as The Bloody Judge. It influenced Witches Tortured Till They Bleed, also known as Mark of the Devil. And then those were both 1970, and then in 1971, The Devils that we talked about already. So this is definitely along those lines, although, well, actually I shouldn't say although, because all of those films are based on true events. The Devils happened in France. The Throne of Fire and Witchfinder General happened in England. And, if I'm not mistaken, I think that Witches Tortured Till They Bleed, I believe that was set in the Holy Roman Empire. This one's also set in the Holy Roman Empire, because at the time, that's what Czechia was part of. And at the time, as we English speakers would know it as Bohemia. So anyway, what happened in real life, and from what I read, and what happens in the film, it's almost totally accurate. I didn't see any large differences whatsoever between the movie and the real history that I read. So what happens is very similar to the Witchfinder General. We have someone is accused of being a witch, and then it's unlike the Witchfinder General, which is kind of just like where witch trials are a thing. This is like the beginning of this period of witch trials here in Bohemia. I forget the name of the town, Lisna or something like that. Very small town. And I also don't know how to pronounce Czech at all. But anyway, very small town. It's not set in like Prague or anything. It's a small town. Anyway, the way it's sparked, and apparently this is exactly what happened in real life, is this lady goes to church. It's a Catholic mass, and she takes the Eucharist, or the body of Christ, in her mouth, which is a little circular wafer of unleavened bread for any of you who aren't Catholic. She takes it in her mouth, and you're supposed to, swallow it, and then she doesn't swallow it. She spits it into basically like a little piece of cloth, and she does it because her neighbor has a cow who won't give any milk, and someone told them that if you feed the cow a Eucharist, then it'll give milk, which is against the rules of the church. And the idea is an idea of witchcraft, like it's like a magical spell that you put on the cow. So, in real life, they get this judge, which is basically a witch hunter, and in real life, he actually ended up executing around 100 people over a certain number of years. until he finally passed away. In the movie, let's see, they started off with a few people. Oh, you know what I wanted to say. In the movie, they don't directly think. Some people wanted to go with a more lenient judge, or a judge that had more lenient history, a judge who had actually been let go from his position for being too lenient and letting some people go. So they end up deciding to go with a stricter one. And when they go find him, he's just like, he owns and runs a tavern, some towns away. And you can tell he doesn't have much money. So then when they hire him, he ends up becoming very rich. And what they basically do is they go around and they accuse all of the richest townspeople of becoming witchcraft. They use torture to basically get people to confess whatever they want and to name whomever they want. And it's very similar to Witchfinder General, except without the heroic element of Witchfinder General, where someone's trying to stop the witch hunter. This film did a very good job making us care about the characters. For a black and white film where everyone's wearing similar clothing and speaking Czech, and they're all like white males of the same age, they did a good job of making the characters stand out from each other. The director is Otakar Vavra. I'm sorry, I don't speak Czech at all. I don't think I've ever heard Czech besides 2 movies, this and one other, which I'll mention in a little bit. They did a great job with the characterization. No one stands up to the judge. Sorry, that's a spoiler. Spoiler alert. No one stands up to the judge, and the people who like kind of sort of do end up like basically just saying like, God will forgive them or whatever. As far as movie plots go, I would have loved for people to stand up and like beat the judge, destroy him, fight him, kill him. But that's not what happened in real life, so that's not what happens in the movie. And so what you end up with is a really grim and kind of maddening, enraging movie where all these innocent people just keep getting tortured and burned alive. So there's no real witchcraft in the movie, just like there isn't in The Throne of Fire or Witches Tortured Till They Bleed. This one is a little bit less extreme with the violence, although not that much less. It's also in black and white, so the blood's not red, it's essentially black, which I think like registers in your brain a little bit differently when you don't see red blood. But it is horrific. Innocent people getting tortured throughout the movie. Evil completely prevailing throughout the entire film. And the innocent just losing. It's not a feel-good movie, but it is a good movie, in my opinion. I give it a 9 out of 10. Considering they stayed so close to history, it couldn't have been much better. Although I will say, I think that it probably was made because they knew it could be popular because of the Witchfinder General. This came out like in January of 1970, really made in 1969, and Witchfinder General came out in 1968. The movie was also banned. It was released, I guess 1.5 million people went to go see it, and then it was taken out of movie theaters and banned from the Soviet Union and anyone who was under Soviet influence all the way until 1989, 2 years before the Soviet Union basically dissolved. The reason for that is because even though this is totally based on real events that happened in the 1670s into 1680, it bared a striking resemblance to the show trials of the communist government, who would basically just give fake trials and execute people who were causing a problem for the government at the time. So because it was so similar to that, it got banned. And so I just wanted to mention that the other Czech film that I've seen was this. I think you would pronounce it ucho. It means ear. And I don't know if you could tell, but there's these claws, but the like negative space here basically is the outline of an ear. This movie is not a horror film, but I would call it a thriller. It's got a sense of paranoia. It was made the same year, 1970. This one was banned. I don't think they even released it. I don't even think it was allowed to be released because it's a very anti-communist government. Basically, the communist government has all these ears or listening devices or bugs inside everyone's home, and people who speak poorly in bad light of the government ended up disappearing. So they end up getting killed. This is like based on a true idea. I'm not sure if the characters in this one are real. The characters in this one were real people in the 1670s. Like most of the main characters were real. They used their real names and everything like that. So that's it for this week, except I will say the reason why it took me so long to make this video is because I was planning on doing a video for this, which is the Italian film Una farfalla con le ali insanguinate, which means basically the butterfly with the blood stain, also known as the bloodstained butterfly. This is a giallo that came out in 1971 by somewhat prolific director Duccio Tessari, who had done some very popular westerns, plus a spy film and a few adventure films, as pretty much every Italian filmmaker did in the 60s. Adventure, like Roman, Greek adventure. Actually, it was a Greek adventure. Greek adventure in the early 60s, and then in the mid to late 60s, he was doing westerns and then spy films, which is what almost every Italian director was doing at the time, because that's what was popular. And most Italian film directors that I've looked into were basically going by what they could, make money from, other than Dario Argento and Mario Bava, who were basically like horror pioneers over there. Anyway, this, not horror. It's not even suspenseful. It's not violent. A couple people die, but basically a girl's killed in a park. The police have to figure out who it is. There are very mild plot twists and very little suspense. Fairly done mystery, but it doesn't get its own video because there's no horror to it. It was okay. I gave it a 6 out of 10. So that's that one. No video for that one, even though it is fairly popular because it got an Arrow Blu-ray release, and I've definitely seen people talking about it, but not really horror. All right, that's it for this time, and we'll see you next time. And thanks for everyone who likes and subscribes. I've been getting a lot of attention lately. I appreciate it very much. See you next time.